Hey everybody, welcome to the new venture we're starting here at Mahoning Matters, kind of a week in review podcast show. I'm Chris Pugh, the editor of Mahoning Matters. And I have with me a longtime journalism friend. You'll probably know him from his time at the Tribune Chronicle, Guy Vogrin, and he's now the PIO with the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office. Guy, welcome. How are you today?
Very well, Chris. I'm honored to be your partner in going through the stories of the week and maybe taking a look at the weekend for our viewers and just kind of publicize what's going on in Mahoning Valley.
Yeah, definitely. And you've worked, man, you've done court writing, you've done all kinds of different things. And it's great now that your career has kind of changed, just lets you keep a toe into the journalism waters too, which is fun too.
Yeah, it's tough making a transition into public information officer for, a county officer. But at the same time, I'm doing much of the same things I did in the latter part of my journalism career for the Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle, covering courts, which I love to do, and just fascinated with the inner workings of the legal system here, especially in the Mahoning Valley.
Great. And just so people know, we're intending this to be a once a week, where we'll do this once a week, where we talk about stuff happening in the Valley. From time to time, we'll have a guest on. We're going to go about 20, 25 minutes today. We may go longer, we may go shorter. I just want to touch base with you guys once a week, as much as we possibly can. Well, let's talk about some of the stuff that's happening around the Mahoning Valley. Big news. Youngstown always brings in different artists to venues across the valley, but they have one big one where they bring in a bigger name artist over at Ween Park. Last year, Luke Bryan, a big country star, you might know him recently from American Idol as well. This Saturday, we got a full bill of artists. Kid Rock, Luke. Lee Bryce and Buck Cherry are coming.
Yeah, everybody's kind of anticipating that, and the news outlets have been giving instructions to concert goers entering downtown this weekend, because also there is a major Italian fest at the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish downtown going on. So parking may be at a premium. I know in the past they had shuttle buses going up from the YSU parking deck downtown to take concert goers. And last year, I guess, for Luke Bryan, they closed the two bridges during the concert on Market Street and South Avenue.
Well, and
in the vicinity of Ween Park.
We published a story from our reporter Kelsey Norris talking about tips for this year. So if you're headed down for the concert, be sure to check that out. But a couple of broad
I think they're going to separate the grandstand from the lawn tickets people, and they're also going to have different concessions for both, so that the last year, I guess, there was terrible crowds crowding up the concession stands, and that though the Wi-Fi was overloaded, so it was very slow in processing bank and credit cards on those purchases.
Yeah, and there's some concern with that. Like, they want you to show your tickets on your cell phone, but they said, have your phone up and the tickets up, because it might be hard with the Wi-Fi situation to pull them up while you're there. I mean, I think it just comes down to anytime you have 20,000 people in a tight space, you got to be careful. And I don't think there's been any definite threats, which is a good thing. But again, for security purposes, anytime you have 20,000 people in a smaller space, you want to take proactive steps to make sure everybody's okay.
Right. And they usually hold it in late August, like they are this weekend. And the first 3 years, the concert was at the YSU Stambaugh Stadium up the hill. And I guess the university kind of had reservations about continuing it there because of the proximity to the football season and the opening of college, kind of threw that plan, away. And so Ween Park is available, and I think it's a much nicer venue for a summer night concert with a big name like they've been having.
It would be interesting to see how many people come. We've asked that question. We haven't heard a response. I know Kelsey in her story today talked about how there's tickets still available. And again, it's a 20,000 person venue, so
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how well it sells out. Um, I'm wondering, Guy, and I know any musician you bring in, some people may like the music, some people may not. It's up to them. I'm wondering how Kid Rock has kind of become a little bit more outspoken. He's kind of waded in with a pretty one-sided video, talking about the transgender controversy. And depending on where you fall politically on that, you're either loving that or you're hating that. He's also a very much supporter of former President Donald Trump. And again, our listeners, if you like Donald Trump, you feel one way. If you don't like Donald Trump, you feel another way.
Right. He's a polarizing person. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, for the Jack that puts these together, I mean, it's up to them. I mean, it's their choice of who to bring in. I'm wondering if the polarizing will help or won't. I mean, I think this has definitely attracted a lot more attention than if it was another well-known singer or whatever.
Right.
I'm wondering if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the attendance on Saturday night.
Right. It's something to look at. And of course, the other variable is the weather. You may have a flash electrical storm crop up, and that would really bring down crowds if the weather forecast is bad. I don't know what the meteorologists are saying now for Saturday night.
Latest I heard, one of our TV friends, a forecaster, was saying he thinks it's going to rain a little bit during the day, but he said it should calm down by Saturday night. So we'll see. I mean, it's a forecast. You never know. It may change before then. But as of now, it appears it's going to be dry on Saturday night. It was interesting. We got a lot of feedback for this. We're part of McClatchy with Mahoning Valley. So, we partner with news organizations. We have 30 other news sites in our group. So we have reporters from other areas of the country that we share stories with. It was interesting. Somebody was up in Detroit for one of Kid Rock's earlier concerts. And apparently he's very outspoken during the concerts as well. I know some people may not like the verbal content in terms of if he swears or not.
Some people just like to hear the music and they don't want any political speeches or side comments.
Yeah, at concerts these days, there's a lot of people that may be very excited about, former President Trump or sometimes Republican thoughts and everything. Or they may speak ill of them. I remember Dixie Chicks, back when George W.
Right.
Bush was president.
And this Jason Aldean controversy over his video.
Right. Well, Kid Rock, and I'm not sure if he's bringing it with him to Youngstown, but part of it is there's a video of Donald Trump addressing the audience during the concert, and he has something about "Make America Rock Again." And again, if you like the former president, you're gonna love it. If you don't like it, you might walk out. But it'll be interesting. Definitely a polarizing guy, and definitely a polarizing choice to make during a concert, since we're so divided politically right now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how big of a place the Valley will be for the 24 elections if the Pauls will be visiting like they did in 20 and 2016 and before that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that. You mentioned, I believe it's this weekend, that former President Trump's going to make a campaign appearance in Erie. Obviously, he's running for president, and he's definitely starting to make appearances. So is some of the other contenders for the Republican nomination this time. Erie's not super far away from Youngstown, but it's not really the Mahoning Valley. What's your take? I mean, there's going to be a lot of candidates. A lot of candidates have already signed up to run. What do you think in terms of president? And then also, Sherrod Brown is running again for senator next year.
Right, and I think that'll have a lot to do with the number of visits the bigwigs like Trump or even RFK Jr. will have. I'm sure Sherrod will be latching on to whoever looks like to be the front runner of the Democrats, whether it's President Biden or RFK Jr. There's a lot of people that still don't think that President Biden will run, so it's still early in the game. But this is an important Senate seat that will determine once again whether the Democrats or the Republicans will control that House of Congress. And Sherrod Brown has been there for, I think this was the end of his third term, so he'll be trying for a fourth. And the Republicans are lining up some heavy artillery to try to take him out and win that seat.
Well, and there's other candidate ties to Youngstown. You look like a guy like Ron DeSantis. From what I understand, he's never lived in Youngstown, but he has a lot of family from there.
Right.
You think, and again, I'm not sure how long he's going to be a candidate, or if his candidacy would do well or not. But you wonder, the longer he's going to be a candidate, you would think he'd probably look to the Valley for a visit somewhere down the road.
Right, and it is curious that Trump is going to Erie, PA, where he probably, isn't that concerned about winning the Republican nomination. I guess he's reading the polls and seeing him way far ahead, that he's already running the general election and knowing that Pennsylvania is an important swing state that got away from him in 2020. And really that had a factor in him losing office.
Well, and here's the other thing. I think this is going to be interesting. We could talk about another week. I mean, maybe next week could be gooey to talk about. But obviously, issue 1 is an important debate that's currently going on right now. Ohio still seems to be very staunchly Republican. And I wonder, Pennsylvania was, a toss-up until the end. You look at the last race. I mean, I know Tim Ryan's a Mahoning Valley guy. It shouldn't have shocked me. But the fact that Tim Ryan lost to a guy that I know he has a name in the pop culture world with J.D. Vance, but man, Tim Ryan's been in office for 20 years.
The fact that him losing the Mahoning Valley had a long way to him losing that race statewide, because if he would have held his own and Tim would have garnered the votes he usually got from the Mahoning Valley, it would have been a much closer race, perhaps, neck and neck.
And see, my take is I think Sherrod Brown's already reading the tea leaves because, again, put your political persuasions aside, you would think Sherrod Brown has a pretty popular name. But, man, after seeing what happened to Tim Ryan, does Sherrod Brown lose to some of these guys?
Right, and he may have to think twice about perhaps distancing himself from President Biden, and especially in the Valley. That Kennedy name is still magic here because the Valley is not Republican, it's conservative.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kennedy's an interesting candidate because he's kind of, definitely from his family. I mean, he's going to be a Democrat. I'd be shocked if he turned into a Republican.
Right, he's not going to turn into a Republican, but he's not going to be a left-wing Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, he has some strong stances on environmental issues, but man, he's not big into the vaccines. He was big into COVID, and a lot of things you would think the Democrats be happy about. He seems to kind of buck the trend, and
he's taking them to task for censoring him. He says that is not part of a democratic process.
See, and I got a feeling that may not. I know there's some questions about President Biden. I mean, he says he's running, but he could always change his mind, I'm sure.
Right, and this Hunter Biden case is going to play a big part in it, whether he runs or not.
I just don't know if Kennedy is the guy. Nothing against what he stands for or anything. I'm just saying in a Democratic field, is that going to strike hold on Democrats that have been against the ideas of, hey, don't get your COVID vaccine or whatever else the case might be.
Right. That it doesn't run in line with modern democratic thinking here. And he's going to have a tough time winning a nomination. We're talking about RFK Jr.
Yeah, I think he's got some stances. I mean, is it wild to think of that? Maybe somebody who's a Democrat could vote for a Republican, or somebody who's a Republican could vote for a Democrat. Trump is polarizing enough. I'm not sure if he's going to bring a lot of Democrats over to vote for him. But at the same time, like a guy like Kennedy.
In a primary, it'll be interesting to see him switch over because we saw that phenomenon in 2016 and 2020 where a lot of Democrats switched into the Republican primary to vote for Trump.
Yeah, I'm kind of really trying to figure out because his message can appeal to some people that were reluctant with like COVID vaccines and other
Right.
stuff.
And his message will sell in the Valley.
Yeah, but on the other hand, like he really likes the Green New Deal. And I know that message turned some people off too. And again, we're not judging if that's a good idea or not.
Right.
It's just it's something that if you mention, a lot of people are going to be like, I'm not sure if I like that or not. So
right.
it'll be different. Well, let's close up this part with just saying how many. I mean, there's a lot of areas around the country. I mean, do you think Trump makes at least one visit to somewhere in the Trumbull, Mahoning, Columbia area?
Oh, I think it's going to be at least one and maybe more. I mean, I would venture to say by the time the 2024 primary comes around, he'll visit each one of the spots, one in Trumbull, one in Mahoning, and one in Columbiana.
I see with Sherrod Brown. It's interesting. He hasn't sold his message to Republicans, but he has a very more unified message. I mean, the awful train derailment in East Palestine. He's reaching across the aisle, to work with J.D. Vance, and that's something that you probably wouldn't have thought of before the train derailment. And it seems like it's the right thing to do. I mean, why wouldn't you work with somebody to help?
Right. And Brown, just being the incumbent and with the name Brown, which is a magical name in Ohio politics, he'll have the slight advantage.
Well, but I've seen him a lot reaching across the aisle and stuff, and he spent a lot of time in Mahoning County. Check out our website. He's announcing working with people at Warren Plant to help keep their jobs with the electric vehicle and stuff. So he's got a lot of interest in the Mahoning Valley. He spent time here. I'm sure he'll spend some more time here. And I'm thinking you'll see visits from Republicans. There's guys from the Northeast Ohio area, and Frank LaRose, I think, will have an interest in visiting the Valley too. So I think we're going to have a lot of those type of things for us to cover probably next year or so before the election.
Oh, you can bet your bottom dollar that yes, we will have a lot to write about in the upcoming months, especially as the March primary gets near.
Yeah, let's bring this up real quick. I know we're kind of up against your time, so we'll be brief with this. Kind of big news. We were at a few weeks ago the Trumbull County Fair, which is a big deal to people in the area. Next week, Kelsey and I are planning on visiting the Columbia Fair to talk about some of the things going on there. We're excited to do that. Ohio State Fair opened up this week too. I know that's not the big thing, but I know a lot of Mahoning Valley people are going down that area. And don't forget, near the end of next month in August, the big Canfield Fair. And I think that's still the second biggest fair to the Ohio State Fair, right?
Oh, it most definitely is. They tout it as the biggest county fair in the nation. I don't know about that, but it is I've seen lists of big fairs in the country, and it's definitely in the top 50. The Canfield Fair has always been the crown jewel of the Mahoning Valley's summer events.
Yeah, a couple-day event. I know they have some big-name musical guests, spotlighted by Boys and Men and everything. Do you think that takes some of the interest away from the Ohio State Fair with how big and the Canfield Fair is, or do you think?
I think locally, yeah, because of a 3-hour drive to go to the fair. You're going to in Columbus, you're going to want to take that over 2 days probably, because 6 hours back and forth, 5 to 6 hour drive. And so I know when I was young, our family always, when we did go to the state fair, we would take 2 or 3 days and get a hotel.
Well, and man, I've always enjoyed the Canfield Fair because it's so big. I mean, sometimes a real small fair can be depressing. You feel like you've been through the whole thing in an hour or two, but
right,
you definitely don't get that feel with the Canfield Fair.
No, and the rides are surprisingly good for a county fair, and I know my grandkids look forward to going just for the fact that they have a good time on the rides. They'll spend hours, and the ticket, a $25 ride ticket isn't really that bad when you're thinking about your value.
Yeah, and a lot of coverage we have planned there, and we could talk about this in a future show. Not just you have the Canfield Fair, but Youngstown State starts August 31st, kind of in the midst of the Canfield Fair.
And then we have two football teams from the Valley defending their state championships.
Yeah, with South Range and
Canfield.
Yeah, a lot of big action. So it's going to be a busy week for the Mahoning Valley. I mean, Youngstown State football will start their season on a Thursday night. I believe it's August 31st. Like you said, there's some Thursday night football is becoming a big thing now. I tell you, it's kind of fun. It's kind of gives you maybe a spotlight game that more people can go to,
and everybody can get warmed up this weekend with the Browns playing in Canton at the Hall of Fame game.
Oh, this weekend, right?
Yes.
Man, I can't believe I'm excited about football season. I love high school, college, and pro football. But man, Guy, we're starting to get the idea that summer is starting to draw to a close.
Yes, it seems to go downhill fast after July 4th, and it's done the same thing. We're almost out of July, and when August hits, after the first couple of weeks, you have the state fair, and then you're looking forward to the Canfield Fair, and then oh no, the kids are back in school, and you're going to look up at the trees, and they're not green anymore.
It seems to be, and it all depends on the school. I know sometimes like rural schools will wait until after the fair because a lot of kids are participating in the fair. But man, some of these start dates are getting really early.
Right. I've saw one August 18th.
Wow.
It's horrible.
My wife is a teacher. She starts August 10th. So we have our own Kelsey Norris is going to be writing a story about start dates. It'll be interesting to see where the start dates start. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we could do 5 more hours on it. Is it good to have kids start?
And I've noticed that there's a lot of back to school giveaways, school supplies, and then August 4th through 6th, shoppers will have a sales tax free weekend in Ohio.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing too. So what guys, let's start to wrap up. Again, I know you're kind of up against the time wise, and this is our first time. I want you to be able to do more of these for us. I don't want to keep you too long. This is good. Like I said, we're planning on doing a weekly review. Our goal is to have this out Friday morning. Let us know if you have any questions. We'd love to take reader feedback. Again, I'm Chris, the editor of Mahoning Matters. We have our reporter, Kelsey Norris. We'll try to have Kelsey on in the future, too. And Guy Vogrin, who is a longtime journalist friend and is kind of helping us out with some of the things going on at Mahoning Matters. So it's very exciting. So, Guy, I really appreciate it. My
pleasure, Chris. I thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. We'll start to plan out next week, and we'll figure out if we have a guest or Kelsey. We'll have to see what we end up with. So,
well, have fun this weekend, Mahoning Valley residents, and come on back and see us next week.
Yeah, like I said, and let me mention this real quick. If you have any questions or thoughts, or maybe, man, what are you guys doing there at Mahoning Matters? Give us an email. Probably the easiest way of emailing us is email a general news line. That's news, obviously, NEWS, at Mahoning. Obviously, we know how the county is spelled. Matters, MATTERS, all one word, .com. And, yeah, feel free to ask us about a story that's been Mahoning Matters, or if you have any thoughts or ideas. We'll try to address as many as we can here on the show as well. All right, well, thanks so much, Guy. For Guy Vogrin, this is Chris Pugh. Thanks for checking us out. We'll be back next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.